Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I have to apologize about yesterday's video being partially restricted. Unfortunately, the clips from the movie The Boys from Brazil got us partially blocked, so some countries, I think 83 countries, weren't able to watch that video. So I do apologize to anybody that affected. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. But anyways, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. This is a terrific way to help out the channel. But if you're looking for a different way to help out the channel, there are links in the description that'll lead you to my merchandise, get some t-shirts and hoodies and get to looking your best, or maybe just want to buy me a coffee. Either way, the links are there, and I appreciate everyone who already has. Guys, can't thank you enough for that. But anyways, with all that out of the way, let's see what we got today. We are live.
The Vatican hides a lot of things because the same buildings that are at the Vatican are the same buildings that were in San Francisco. And before the World Fair of San Francisco, they got rid of all the buildings that look like the Vatican. That was that whole reset. And what's interesting is there's a book from 1907 that talks about how when the San Francisco World Fair whole thing took place, that they tried to put out the fires with TNT and dynamite. TNT and dynamite to put out fires. Never heard of that before. Anytime there's a fire, I've never heard of anybody using TNT and dynamite. I've also never heard of them using cannons. They also talked about how they use cannons against the fire. So the same buildings that are in San Francisco are the same buildings that are in the Vatican. They're just going to try to point your eyes at the Vatican and say that they own that land, when in reality, those buildings and that type of style of architecture was all over the world. They just capitalized on it. And what's funny is the fires only burnt the tops of the buildings and certain parts of the building, but other parts of the building were completely untouched. Reminds me of a lot of 1893 Chicago, 1901 St. Louis, and 1901 Buffalo, New York. Only certain things burn and only certain things crumble.
Yeah, exactly. If you haven't seen that episode yet, I go back and watch it.
Corn is an important symbol in Masonry and is one found repeatedly in Washington, D.C. But what sort of hidden meaning could apply to corn? In Hebrew, the word for corn is Dagon, which became the name of a Babylonian god. Some believe the same god was adopted by the Phoenicians under the name Dagon. While Dagon was often worshipped as the fish god, he was also the god of corn. His son was known as Baal, who was often called the son of Dagon or the son of corn. Could Baal have been the model for the bearded male images that appear throughout Washington, D.C.? Take note of this image, with ears of corn carved into the hair. According to legend, Baal was once slain by the god of death and taken into the underworld. But at some point, he was resurrected, or as it is sometimes called, awakened. At Haines Point in Washington, D.C. is found this mysterious statue of a bearded giant rising up out of the ground. The statue is called the Awakening.
Weird stuff.
Let me tell you something. Rome has been ruling Europe for almost 2,300 years. The Vatican has been ruling Europe for at least 1,600 years. All of the royalty and celebrities and royalty of Europe are royalty. They rule by divine right. Well, where do you get the divine right from? You get it from the Holy Father. God didn't give you any divine right. Nobody's talked to God lately. You don't need to talk to God. The Vatican will decide if you are one of their boys. And if you're one of their boys, the Pope will then bless you with the like they did Michael Corleone and the Godfather 3 and with the sword and all that kind of thing. And now you are divinely appointed. By who? By the Pope. The people at the Vatican. And the Vatican represents a very powerful secret society that's been in operation in the Roman Empire long before the Vatican ever existed. It's referred to as a Sun Order. S-U-N, the Sun Order.
Going back to Egypt.
It's
right?
going back to Egypt, absolutely.
Right.
And so the sun was always represented as an eagle. The eagle always represented the sun.
The Horus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hawk or the eagle.
Yeah.
Now, eagles only have two wings, left wing and right wing. That's why you always have a division between the left wing and right wing in politics and religion, because you need 2 feet.
Yeah.
You need to walk through this world on 2 feet.
Okay, well, let's see where we're going.
Who is the Pope? He is the Emperor of Rome. Rome never died, never faded away. It became the Vatican. What is the Vatican? It is the priesthood of all of the old pagan religions of Rome, built upon the deception that they are Christian. Can man change the orders of God? Can man elevate himself above God? No. Then why did the Pope change the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, the venerable day of the worship of the sun Osiris? Why in the outer courtyard of the Vatican is there a temple of the sun, an obelisk, and a reflecting pool built as a fountain around the base of the obelisk? Because what we're talking about in Dealey Plaza and in Washington, D.C. exists also in the Vatican. And I'm not trying to insult Catholics, I'm just trying to tell you the truth.
Exactly. We're just looking at some stuff, trying to figure it out.
You know what Dagon is? Look at the church. They're worshiping a god named Dagon. It's right there in front of you if you just look at the church.
I think you'll have to explain that.
A Phoenician, Canaanite, ancient god that came out of the sea, and he did all kinds of miracles and strange things he knew and taught men how to live and how to grow food, and then he would go back into the ocean at night.
That's a myth, right?
It's an ancient religion, the Phoenician Canaanite religion. I didn't say it actually happened, I'm just saying that's what they believe.
They probably wouldn't know that.
No, nobody knows anything about Dagon, and nobody cares. Why? Because it's just a church, so we go to church and we feel good, and we have all our friends there. Nobody reads anything, nobody cares. You just do what you do because you were born into it. Dagon is the god of Catholicism.
I'm not allowed to say certain things, but this is how they hide everything. So, if you want to understand what you are, where we are, this ebook will literally unveil that to you.
Well, the Vatican, if you remember that for at least 2,300 years, Rome, starting with the Caesars of Rome, the Augustus Caesar, the first emperor, but for 2,300 years, Europe has been dominated by Rome. And then for the last 1,600 years has been under the Catholic Church. The Holy Father is the Pontifex Maximus, which was a term given to the Caesars. Pontifex Maximus means the greatest bridge builder. And so, again, Rome has dominated Europe for 2,300 years, first under the Roman Empire and then under the Vatican. And for 2,300 years, Europe has dominated the planet. So therefore, all roads lead to Rome. And so that's why, again, when we were talking about the Jewish thing, the Jews are not doing anything near whatever is going on out there. Don't worry about the Jews. You better look at the Vatican. For 2,300 years, Rome has ruled Europe, and Europe has dominated the world. There's where the power is. The Holy Father, nothing holy in Rome. He represents God. That's why all of the royalty will tell you that they have a divine right. What do you mean divine right? That implies God put you there. No, divine right comes from the idea that the Pope anointed you. The Pope said you could be prince, so now you have a divine right. Why? Because he represents God. You say, what God? Because that Pope's tiara he wears is a fish head. The Roman Catholic Church is worshiping an old god named Dagon, D-A-G-O-N, Dagon. Dagon is the god of the Roman Catholic Church. But happily, most people have no idea who Dagon was. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So everything is fine until you wake up one day and start doing your homework and find out that the Roman god Dagon is the god of the Roman Catholic Church today.
Certainly a case that can be made.
The first symbol that I want to talk about is the headdress that the Pope or the Bishop of Rome wears. That symbol goes back at least 5,000 years. This strange and interesting headdress that the Pope wears is impacted by a god named Dagon. Dagon was a fish god. We have a god who's half fish and half man. So now we see the Pope's headdress, but when turned, you then see he's actually wearing a fish head because he's representing the worship of an ancient Phoenician god. And that very powerful mystical god is still dominating the spirit and the intellectual thinking of religion even to today.
Interesting.
The bank. They took control of the Republican and Democratic parties. They started the First World War and the Second World War, and they controlled all the sides in them. They destroyed Austria because the emperor dared to veto the election of Rampolla Tindaro, their Masonic candidate for the papacy, in 1904. And so the cardinals chose Pius X, and for that crime, the Masons destroyed Austria, the only nation that ceased to exist after the First World War. But now that's their ultimate scamdemic. The Bilderbergers, that's the Rockefellers. This is total world control. They want control of everyone. They want to enslave us. They just don't want to own us. They want us to be evil like them. They want to take us to hell like them. They want us to love evil like them. They are pedophiles in the worst sense. They want everyone to own us. They want us to be evil like them. They want to take us to hell like them. They want us to love evil like them. They are pedophiles in the worst sense. They want everyone to be a pervert. They want everyone to be involved in evil. They want everyone involved in killing themselves. That's why they want you to suffocate yourself to death, wearing a diaper on your face. That's why they want you to willingly stick out your arm and take chemicals injected in you that will destroy you, change what you are, make you a GMO creature. And that's why they're racing to install all manners of high-tech equipment so that far beyond what is necessary for cell phone communications. I can't even say the name. This channel would be blocked. But they want to control because they want to be able to, through their few families, their few hundred people around the world, they want to be able to control all the automobiles and all the machinery and all the jobs and eventually everyone's own mind. They built the internet. The internet is one of their tools of control because they know that the more we spend time talking to each other through this method, like I'm doing now, the more we get programmed by it and controlled, because this is not real. Real is who would be next to me, okay? I have been doing the nightly prayers in front of the Basilica for nearly 10 months and transmitting all along. And the reason why no one comes is because I transmit. That's why no one comes. People don't realize that. You think that this is real, and so you stay home. You think that what you do on the internet is real, and so you don't do anything.
He's kind of right about that, but
they've been hiding this from you. The Vatican archives aren't just old documents. They hold proof of ancient gods with advanced technology. But that's not even the craziest thing that was recently discovered. In leaked Vatican correspondence, there are hints of hidden texts saying, "These writings contain knowledge forbidden to the public." The archives have been guarded for centuries, so what are they hiding? This is where things get scary. In newly revealed whistleblower accounts, it's said that the Vatican archives aren't just historical records, but contain evidence of an advanced ancient civilization known as the Viracochas. The accounts specifically mention that the Viracochas, worshipped as gods, left behind documents and artifacts that detail advanced technologies and lost histories. However, once these documents were found, their contents were concealed, and the true history of the Viracochas was hidden to maintain the Church's control over historical narratives. This explains why access to the Vatican archives is so restricted and why the contents remain one of the world's most guarded secrets.
yeah, I'd really like to know what's down there.
What is the Vatican keeping secret? for their entire time that they've existed. They've collected manuscripts and relics and items, not only for their own research and to support their ideas, but also to prevent anything coming out. Because they need to control the information around biblical issues, they can't allow alternative views to become public. They've got 52 miles of shelving of books and manuscripts alone. So that will be everything from early first century fragments to potentially entire alternative gospels. There's the potential for alternative views to emerge. There were lots of different books originally that were set to go in the Bible, and it was only through a process of politics mainly that the final books were chosen. You'd expect an archive to be a public record that's made available, but because there's the potential for controversial material, you're not allowed access. They have potentially tens of thousands of documents that are still uncatalogued. So there could be documents they've got no idea of the importance of that they've got stored.
And is it just documents?
There's definitely relics. We know that from the Holy Land, certain items were returned, some quite extreme items. The foreskin of Christ is one of them that's said to be in the Vatican. Even the umbilical cord was supposed to have been kept.
I believe that, if it's, possible.
The Grand Grimoire is purported to be a secret book stored in the Vatican archives. It is considered a real book because the Vatican claims ownership of it, but has never allowed anyone to view its contents. Allegedly, the book was discovered in the tomb of Solomon in 1750, yet it bears the date 1522. The author of the book, Honorius of Thebes, is said to be Satan himself or possessed by Satan for the purpose of writing the book. Some theorists suggest that the book possesses supernatural qualities, as it cannot be torn, burned, pierced, penetrated, or otherwise damaged or destroyed. It is claimed to be the only book containing the knowledge of a precise ritual for summoning Satan and other powerful demons. Additionally, the book is said to include precise information about the locations of biblical relics, and even contains Satan's personal sketches of the faces of Judas Iscariot and Jesus Christ.
Crazy.
Chronovisor is a conspiracy that involves the Vatican. This man, who was a monk in Italy, named Pellegrino Ernetti, and he had this skill set of restoring old Gregorian chants. And he was working with this other guy who was his boss, and then the guy who he was working with, the guy heard his father's voice. And he's like, that sounds like my dad, this frequency that was coming in. He heard his father talking about shining shoes or a shoe repair or something. He's like, that is my father, because he was a cobbler. They're able to tap into this whole past life. And so that got Father Pellegrino to start doing research into what he called residual energy. He theorized that that could be detected. He went back, fragments had remained, and no one knew what the play was. He went back and was able to watch the whole play and write down the entire play.
That is nuts,
and so
dude.
They went to the Pope with it, and the Pope said, you have to get rid of it. He said, this is way too dangerous to have. Supposedly, they dismantled it, but there's a lot of people theorizing that the Vatican still has it, they still use it, and potentially the CIA is involved in it.
They obviously, if it exists, they have it. Guarantee it.
The Vatican doesn't want you to know about this time device. In 2002, a book was released by a man named Francois Brune that revealed that time travel may already be possible. Well, you see, he claimed that in the 1950s, 12 world-renowned scientists actually cracked the code on time travel with the ability of harnessing electromagnetic sound waves that had been emitted in the past. He went on to show further proof with a photograph of Jesus's actual crucifixion. However, when questioned about the whereabouts of the device, he mentioned that the Vatican came in and confiscated it, and denying that anything of the sort ever existed. Interestingly enough, in 1988, the Vatican passed a law stating that anyone caught in possession of a device with time travel capabilities will be excommunicated. If the Chronovisor was not real, then why was a law such as this passed? Even though you can watch the full video by clicking on the link in the description below, what is the Vatican afraid of? And is it true that?
Well, I know the Vatican can pass its own laws, so...
This is the Pina. The Pina is a towering 13-foot tall bronze pine cone built by the Romans. The word Pina means pine cone in Italian. This colossal pine cone sits in Vatican City in an area known as the Court of the Pine Cone. above the mysterious Vatican secret archives. This isn't the only place in the Holy See you'll find this symbol. It's on the papal staff. It even takes the shape of the papal tiara worn by the Pope himself. But why the pine cone? The pine cone is a symbol of spiritual consciousness, resurrection, and eternal life. The symbol is found across cultures and civilizations. It's said the pine cone was actually the forbidden fruit found on the tree of life. Tilting a pine cone and viewing from the top reveals the cone's sacred geometry in the forms of a golden spiral and Fibonacci sequence. The association of pine cones and human spirituality comes to us from the pineal gland in the human body, which resembles a pine cone. This is where the word pineal comes from. Pinea in Latin, which means pine-like. Pineal gland is thought to be the seat of the soul and is one of the places where the body produces DMT, one of the most potent psychedelic drugs known to man. This is why many ancients consider the pineal to be the third eye. Next time you see a pine cone in a work of art, look closer. The hidden message of the pine cone might be right in front of you.
Roman Bath, England, notice the serpent symbol. The serpent is the life giver. You find it in Egypt, you find it in Hinduism, everywhere you find the serpent. It is the most prominent symbol. There you have the Hydra. You find it everywhere. Would you find it in Catholicism? Of course. And the main crest of the Vatican has the dragon serpent on it. The greatest serpents in the world you will find on Bernini's canopy in Rome. It's interesting that St. Paul's Cathedral, which was a Protestant cathedral, has been totally rebuilt and now has a duplicate of Bernini's canopy inside it. Vatis means the diviner. Khan is the serpent. Vatican means the divining serpent. Dragon worship, that's what it is. The Bible says the dragon gave him his seat and power and great authority.
It is no secret that the Vatican is suspicious as shit, but why they built an audience hall in the shape of a snake's head, that's a secret. But I have a theory, and let's talk about it. Starting with the outside of the building, this is what you would see if you were a bird looking down on it. Looks like a snake's head, doesn't it? It's got two eyes on the side, got a little bit of a curve to it. Let's go inside. The windows inside this place are made up of stained glass, and they are arranged in such a pattern that they look like the pupil of a snake. Here, look. I'm sorry, but I see some similarities. What about you? Here's where I'm gonna wild out for just a second. Stick with me. This is if you were a bird looking down on the Vatican. What does that look like? That looks like a snake's head to me with some snake eyes and everything. And then you move on down and you've got a round circle in the middle of it, like a snake that just swallowed something whole. Here's the thing about that. In the middle of this fucking circle, there is an obelisk. Now, some people theorize that ancient Egyptians used the obelisk to absorb energy as an energy source and transmit it to other places, like pyramids or domes. And then you have the snake's tail in the back. Now, real quick before I go, I'm going to show you what a snake looks like when it swallowed something whole. Now, tell me that building wasn't designed in the form of a snake. It looks just like one.
I think it's pretty obvious. It's a snake.
I am so into reading forgotten books and spirituality, and the Vatican scares the absolute crap out of me. So I've been reading this book, The Secrets of the Vatican, and there is some crazy, crazy stuff in here. I was actually raised in the Catholic Church, and I still believe in God, but there is some kind of dark energy around the Vatican, and I think we should talk about it considering the season. First of all, let's talk about the fact that the Bible originally contained more books than are currently listed in the Bible. The Bible currently has 66 books, but these are some of the names of the deleted texts from the Bible that were removed by the Vatican. And look at the names of some of them, like the Book of Giants. A lot of these books talk about mystical creatures like giants and dragons and subjects like the apocalypse. And it's just like, why would you take them out? The Vatican Secrets book also talks about these three children from Portugal who claim that they witnessed the presence of the Virgin Mary. Mary gave each of them a secret. The third secret was given to the youngest child, Lucia. This is her here as an adult, but it was never revealed until the Pope begged her. She sealed it in wax and gave it to him and said, "Do not open this until 1960. And the secret was apparently about the end of the world. She said that it was the persecution of Christians that would eventually cause the apocalypse. There's a section of the book that talks about the Vatican's proof of aliens. So apparently, if you've heard of the Anunnaki, which is a race of aliens, the Vatican apparently has proof that they exist. Not only that, but that they were the ones responsible for the massive structures built in Egypt, which is interesting when you consider this structure, St. Peter's obelisk in Vatican City, that was actually brought there from Egypt by someone from the Vatican, and it was used as the point of unaliving Christians at the base. Look it up. Not only that, but this book also talks about the fact that there is a mass graveyard underneath Vatican City from the Roman Empire that contains millions of bodies of pagans. All of this is interesting, especially when you consider the fact that in 1978, this Pope, John Paul I, was elected, and he didn't like what he saw in the Vatican. So he announced his plans to unveil a lot of the dark things that were going on. And then just 33 days later was found deceased, apparently by a heart attack. And he was found by another priest at the Vatican. Is this conspiracy or is there something to this? Let me know what you think in the comments and follow for more like this.
Yeah, I think most organized religions these days, and this is just my opinion, and I'm not here to offend, I think are infiltrated, and it's just more of another way to control everybody. But the Vatican is not holy. There's nothing holy about the Vatican, and this is all my opinion. But I think that's one of the more evil places to exist. Now, we didn't even discuss the piles of bones that are below the Vatican as well. It's a very weird place, and there's a lot of secrets we can get into, but yeah, I just figured today touch on this again because there's going to be more going forward that relates to it. So that's all I got today though, guys. I guess I'll see you in the next one, and until then, 80 Canadian signing off.